bored, he starts writing a press release. For immediate release, Negativland have been asked by federal authorities to cancel their long-planned 17-city tour pending an investigation into the connection between the quadruple axe murders in Rochester, Minnesota, and their song, Christianity is Stupid. He showed this to the group. We thought this was kind of sick, kind of funny, and then we thought, well, you know, actually, this is so much more interesting than the truth. Why don't we put this out? Why don't we see what happens? You know, just instead of responding to the media in our work, why don't we actually put something into it ourselves? You know, feed it something and see what it does with it. Now, if we'd done this in the days of Google, I think it would never have gone as far as it went. I think you would have been able to figure it out pretty quick. But it showed up in a zine in California about a month later. A lot of the press release used pretty much verbatim. And you know, claiming that there was some argument over the music or backwards masking, something that precipitated these murders, because it was a devoutly religious family that were chopped up. And a regional arts, culture, and music magazine that covered all of the West Coast picked up the zine, and they wanted to write about it. And so it reached a much bigger level at that point. And we were being interviewed and saying, "How could this can't be true? It's got to be a hoax. You know, it's ridiculous." And then I was working at the time as an assistant nursery school teacher, and why is that funny? I'm actually pretty good at it.
You were the main teacher, not the assistant.
I was the assistant teacher. I was not the main teacher. Yes, if any of you know our track Car Bomb was debuted right when it was done being mixed to a room full of 4-year-olds. And they all spontaneously dropped to the ground when the explosion sounds went on. I used to sing the Nesbitt's Lime Soda with all the kids too. Anyway, so I get one of the administration people comes down and knocks on the door, you know, and says, "Mark, can you come up to the head office? There's a phone call from this CBS News guy. They want to talk to you. What is that about?" And I said, I don't know, but I knew what it had to be about. And it was Channel 5, KPIX News, which is the CBS News affiliate in San Francisco. They had seen the article in this BAM magazine, the Arts and Culture magazine, and they wanted to talk to us about why this had happened. And I've never been in a situation like this in my life, where it's finally like the regular mainstream corporate news media is knocking at my door to ask what I have to say. So I said, no, we don't want to talk to you. I mean, you're just going to sensationalize this. People are accusing us of trying to further our career and publicize ourselves through doing this, and our whole lives have just been turned upside down. We've had to cancel our tour, lose all this money. It's a disaster. And this was just the exact right way to respond to the reporter, because I think it made it completely believable that because I was trying to get him to not talk to me. And he said, no, we want to tell your side of the story. You know, we're objective, we're fair, you know, we're not going to sensationalize it. So I reluctantly agreed that we would talk to him. So I then hung up the phone, called up the rest of Negativland and said, you know, oh my God, there's going to be a news van at our studio in 2 hours. We have to figure out what the hell we're going to do. We set up in the studio as if we were a band. Now, I don't think Negativland really is a band. We just pretend to be one because it's interesting to do what we do within a kind of a pop cultural context. We've always been very intentional about doing that. And so we set up as if we were a band in our studio, and they came over to, and you know, I knew they'd want footage of us performing and doing stuff. So we were, at one point I think I was playing the bass guitar, and I picked up a drumstick to play the bass guitar with a drumstick, thinking, well, they'll like that because they're going to make us out to be strange weirdos, I'm sure. And during the interview at one point, the reporter Hal Eisner turned to Don Joyce of Negativland, who's the guy who runs the radio show Over the Edge every week that we've been on, that Phineas Narco kind of got his start in, I guess. And the reporter Hal Eisner said, this whole story with Negativland and this axe murder story is so extraordinary, it seems like it would almost have to be a hoax. And there was this sort of incredible pause, and Don looked at the reporter and he said, "It is a hoax." And the blood drained from the reporter's face, because he had to be on the air in just a couple hours. And I was sort of shocked Don said this. And then Don said, "Oh, I'm just kidding." So Hal Eisner was very happy to find that out. So anyway, we talked about, you know, how the media doesn't check their facts, how they sensationalize things, how we were telling him, you know, on camera, he's saying, well, how the news media really always relies on other media, you know, is not always doing their research, and and you know, never knowing what would make it on the air. So they left. We went over to the TV and turned it on and began the wait to see what was going to actually happen from all of this, because we just couldn't believe it had gone this far. Well, that night, it turned out it was a very slow news day in Northern California, and we were the lead story of the top of the hour. So let's just look at that broadcast right now. Boy, am I talking fast. That's okay.
Good evening. Topping night casts a possible link between murder and music.
Music performed by a rock group right here in the Bay Area.
4 members of a Midwestern family were murdered. The 16-year-old son is the prime suspect. Members of the experimental rock group Negativland have been drawn into the case, and prosecutors won't even tell them for certain that their music, how their music might be involved. Hal Eisner has our report.
It was the kind of murder case that friends and neighbors said didn't make sense. They didn't understand how an A student from a good family could murder his brother, sister, and parents with an axe.
He was not a homicidal maniac. He did not show any signs of wanting to hurt anyone.
David Brahm was accused in the multiple axe slayings, but now, almost 3 months later, many are still wondering why. One explanation may involve a Bay Area music group called Negativland. Negativland's music is highly critical of the mass media, nuclear war, and handguns. The group thinks their music is humorous, but they don't find it a bit funny that one of their songs poking fun at religion may have sparked a dispute among the Brahms, triggering the murders. They say federal authorities asked them to cancel a long-planned 17-city tour and eliminate live performances until the conclusion of the investigation. The probe apparently involved their song, Christianity is Stupid.
Christianity is stupid. Christianity is stupid.
It's hard to listen to the cut and not laugh. If you have any sense of humor at all, or whatever, it's hard not to see the humor in it, and that it would result in anything as serious as this, I think, is ridiculous.
This isn't the first time controversial music has been linked to tragedy. Charles Manson said his murder spree was influenced by the Beatles' Helter Skelter. It's believed Night Stalker suspect Richard Ramirez was influenced by AC/DC's Highway to Hell album. An Ozzy Osbourne song, Suicide Solution, became the focal point of an actual suicide case involving a Southern California teenager.
What you can say is that music is a bystander involved to a certain degree, but most unlikely that it generated the mayhem. If it did, there'd be a lot more mayhem around.
Meanwhile, the members of Negativland are hoping for a speedy conclusion to the Brahm case in Minnesota and eventually a return to their live performances and a career that after 9 years had finally taken some positive turns. But a quick end to the bizarre murder case may be in doubt. A Minnesota judge has ruled that David Brahm will face trial as a juvenile. The prosecutor wants Brahm tried as an adult, and he's appealing. I'm Hal Eisner, Channel 5 Eyewitness News.
It'll be several months before the court decides whether to try David Brahm as a juvenile or an adult. The date for his murder trial